Well, we are back. We're live. I'm live, I guess. Still here pressing buttons, tapping screens, doing all that stuff. But thanks for joining me on another episode of All Star Fandom Prime. We're here live, here for a second week. And I got a buddy, another friend of mine that I've picked up along the way through this journey of streaming, through this journey of being on YouTube, podcasting, of doing all of that. And so I just want to introduce you to him now. He's my partner in crime tonight. Ryan, say what's up to the people, man. Introduce yourself.
Hello there. Well, greetings and salutations. It's good to be here. My name is Ryan. I'm the host and producer of And I Quote channel, where we talk about all things nerdy. We interview content creators from all over the world on our flagship show, which is known as And I Quote. We do shows called the Nerdy Cantina, talking all things Star Wars, which we may or may not get to a little bit later on in this broadcast. We do a show called Movie Watch Along, where we celebrate movies that turn a certain age every year. We got plans for a lot of those this year because all the movies that came out in 99, 2004, 2014, all those movies are turning a certain age, and we are excited. Even the movies that came out in 1984 turned 40 this year, which is insane to think about. But we do Movie Watch Along. We do a show called The Meaning of Fandom, where we gather people together and they share with us what a particular character or fandom means to them and why. Check us out. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube at And I Quote channel, and we are only 10 individuals away from reaching 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We have worked so hard for this. We've had so much fun entertaining the millions and millions of people out there. It's been so much fun. We've had so many great people grace us with their presence on our virtual stage, including this one. Dion, my man. Dion from All Star Fandom has made an appearance or two, maybe even more. A few.
Did the Batman watch along. I think I've been like 3 or 4 times.
Batman. Yeah, and oddly enough, one of the greatest Batman films of all time, Batman '89, turns 35 later this summer, and we are going to be celebrating that on Movie Watch Along. So the best thing you can do is subscribe to our channel, help us reach 1,000, because once we do, this is something I need to tell everybody on All Star Fandom, is that once we reach 1,000, we're going to throw a great big live stream celebration.
That's going to have I'm invited, right?
Which, of course, Dion and company are invited to attend and make an appearance and say hello to everyone at home. We're going to have some special giveaways that we're going to be putting out on our social media channels. So make sure you're following us. All the links are either located in the description of this video. If they're not already, we'll get to it in post. And also you could, you can see it across the screen here at And I Quote channel, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, most importantly, YouTube. Help us reach 1,000, because we are so excited to have all the familiar faces come back, such as Dion and company, such as Lori Calcaterra, whether it's Kelly Gettner, whether it's Crayley Vanest, whether it's a whole bunch of other people, Bobby Nash, Brian Rodman, Brian K. Morris, all of them. They're all going to be included in this. Hopefully we can get them there. Depends on the day and the time, because everyone lives in different time zones. But that's what we do. We celebrate. Basically, what we do at And I Quote channel is we embrace the nerd within you. So if you're passionate about a fandom or a character, or if you're a small business owner or you're a content creator, we want to hear from you. We want to talk with you. We want to promote what you're doing. Oddly enough, or maybe not oddly, more like we're excited. So Dion is going to be making a future appearance on And I Quote. We're very excited to have him on the show. He'll be talking about his Miami Vice logo and neon set that we're here on set. It's
love the theme, right? Like
I feel like I'm stuck in 1985 and I can't get out. But you know what? 1985 is a great year, and all the movies that about to turn 40 next year. So we'll be doing even more watch-alongs, because a little film called Back to the Future came out in 1985, which was a great year. And including The Breakfast Club. That was another one. So there's a lot of reasons to celebrate the 80s, such as what Dion is doing with his set. I mean, with the vibe of the studio. Ooh,
and that's the thing. That's the thing, right? I'm born like late 80s, you know.
Same here. I'm an 87 baby, so it's okay.
Same here. So my brother, twins. So my brother grew up within that, right? Sure. And as he got older, he showed me all that stuff, and I was like, "This is some really cool stuff."
The 80s are great.
Back to the Future, Terminator, every action movie throughout that time.
Never
RoboCop is still one of my favorite movies ever. Like, it's just
The Goonies.
That they don't make them like that anymore, Ryan. We may have to talk about something like that too.
They don't. Batman '89 came out in that particular decade. Look at Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones had all 3 movies come out.
It was one of the best decade, I feel like, for
Star
movies,
Wars.
And so good. Well, now since you said Star Wars, there's a few topics that we're going to discuss tonight. So pretty much how the story will, how this premise will go. My guests come on, they give me a topic, or we discuss a topic that's really near to their heart. But before we jump into that, um, I have a question that I ask every single guest, or guest number two. That's right. To this,
That means second is the best. Second is the best. There you go. I just outranked everybody on set.
Perfect. So I think we might get into it, but what would you say is your ultimate fandom? Like if Ryan had to talk about one thing and one thing only, what would that ultimate fandom be and why?
Man, there's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. Even though I'm wearing the shirt that we're going to be talking about later tonight. Listen, I love Star Wars, right? But the number one fandom that comes to my mind here, Dion, if I may, is Superman.
Oh
Superman's
yeah.
number one.
Okay.
Superman, and this is a true story because this past weekend in our nation's capital, Washington D.C., Awesome Con happened, and at Awesome Con, I had the honor, nay, the privilege, of fulfilling my 18-year journey, and that is meeting the two of the leading members of the cast of Smallville, my favorite TV show of all time, which happens to be centered around the character of Clark Kent and Kal-El growing up in Smallville of Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum for the very first time this past week, and I waited 18 years for that moment. And
That's
it was
awesome,
priceless. It was glorious. It was wonderful. You can see all our footage and video, or not footage, but all our pictures are posted on our Instagram page. So you can go to our Instagram, look at them. We posted all the pictures I took with all the peeps and all the big dogs in Washington, D.C. in our nation's capital of AwesomeCon 2024. So I would say Superman's my number one fandom because, would you like me to give you the reason?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so here's the reason why Superman's my number one is because if it weren't for Smallville particularly, now I grew up like many of us, maybe the person maybe watching or listening to this right now, Christopher Reeve was
the all-time,
and still is Superman to many people. And that's fine. I have no issue with that. I think Christopher Reeve was a blessed man with a good heart, great acting, fantastic stuff. But for me, what made me the Superman fan I am today, or should I say the Clark Kent fan, because Smallville is really about Clark Kent. It's not about Superman. It's about Clark Kent growing up to what we know he's going to become in Superman. So Smallville aired its 100th episode in January of 2006, late January 2006, just to give everyone some context here. And because of that episode, I bawled my eyes out. Spoiler alert for a 25-year-old show. Sorry, audience, but cover yours if you don't want to know this. So in Reckoning, Clark Kent loses his father, Jonathan Kent, suddenly, tragically. And 8 weeks prior to that episode being aired on national television, I lost my dad in a somewhat similar fashion to how Clark did. So when Clark loses his dad, and I'm bawling my eyes out during that scene, and then at the funeral scene, which ends the episode, by the way, which great music played, I Grieve by Peter Gabriel playing in the background. It was genius music. I thought to myself, okay, I get this guy. I understand what he's going through. I get why he can't save everyone. Like it just hit me at the right place at the right time. That's what fandoms do. They hit you at a certain place, at a certain point in your life, and you just think to yourself, this is awesome. I want more of this, or I gravitate towards this kind of material. So because of Smallville in January 2006, which was during the midpoint of season 5, I was late to the party, okay? But as soon as that episode was done, I said to myself, okay, if this is what Smallville is moving forward, I want all of it. I want more. I want to learn more about these characters. I want to know why Smallville is in the shape that it's in. Like, what are meteor freaks? What are these abilities? What are these mystical things that are happening? What is Lex Luthor really up to with knowing what Clark's secret is or isn't? We don't know. We don't know that yet. So the cast and crew did a tremendous job, and I had the pleasure of seeing Tom and Michael this past week, and I said to him, I said, look, if it weren't for you in Smallville, it would not have gotten me through my dad's death. It helped me through a very unfortunate period in my life, and because of that, I am the Superman / Smallville fan that I am today. So if you're a fan of DC and you're a fan of Superman, you can be my BFF. If you're not, we can't be friends. No, I'm kidding. That is not the only qualification for being one of my new best friends. I mean, I like many fandoms. I like many, but Superman /
that would be your ultimate
is the cream that rise to the top. Yeah. So that is my number one. So if you like Smallville, or you like Superman, or if you've never even heard of the television series Smallville, go on Hulu, #not-sponsor, and stream all 10 seasons, all 218 episodes, and check out Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Talkville.
It's really good.
that's hosted between Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling, where they go
Hmm.
back and they watch all 218 episodes and they give you behind the scenes stories. They share with you what things they believed worked in the show, what things didn't work in the show, and everything in between. And they take your questions. There's a hotline number. There's a bunch of stuff you can find on Talkville's, Talkville podcast on social media, which you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I believe, what's the other one? TikTok. Yeah.
For now, at least. So,
TikTok TikTok, supposedly TikTok may be gone tomorrow. I don't know,
yeah, but
but we won't talk about that here on this channel. But check out Talkville, check out Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Great podcast. So there you go. There's my 100 non-existent dollar plug for why I love Superman / Smallville. So that's my number one fandom right there.
But just knowing like how that started for you, or what you grabbed, what was there for you when you needed it, you know, I think that plays a big part into a lot of the things that we start to enjoy or start to like, right? Their fond memories, or their ways that they help cope, or their ways that they sort of help blanket you, you know. Being picked on at school, I'm going home and watch Batman. Like, he made me feel like strong, you know, like that's like, let me just make it to there. So Ryan,
I am the night.
Thanks for sharing that, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm a DC fan anyway, so it's all good. You and I are BFFs regardless.
Yeah, movies haven't been.
That's different.
That's another side mission for another day.
Whole different ball. What do you call it? A whole different barrel of monkeys. Whole different ball of wax.
So let's go ahead and jump into the first topic. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm giving it to our guests. I'm throwing it up the lot for my guests. So we're going to talk about Star Wars: The Future of TV and Film. Ryan, I'm going to throw this over to you because I've been on Nerdy Cantina with you. I will admit, compared to the panel on there, a super novice when it comes to knowing all the ins and outs of it. Thankfully, the questions that you asked, I was like, okay, I know this, I'm in this realm. But others, I was like, oh man, let me think about this a little bit tougher. But Star Wars: Future of TV and Films, long film legacy.
Some of it good, some of it not.
I wanted to say,
some of it not so good.
And now they've started their television sort of voyage. So as a fan of Star Wars, and just, you know, actually making a show, Nerdy Cantina, and talking about it,
because it's fun.
What do you see on the horizon for those movies, or just and those TV, and what's been your sort of take on them so far? Good for good and bad.
That's like 6 questions rolled into one statement. I don't know if I can answer all 6.
Thankfully, on my notes here, if you get lost, I got you.
Please so don't worry. And by the way, you're not the only person who feels like a novice on their own show. I mean, when we do Nerdy Cantina, Jen and Christy and whoever else we have on it, Grace. All those unbelievably and great guests. Everyone's been a great guest. No one has been a slouch, but all the female Jedi really know more than we do. So
they are in it. They are.
It doesn't bother me. It's fine. They're great. They're wonderful, and we keep bringing them back. So feel free to check out the playlist of the Nerdy Cantina. You'll find me just looking like a deer in the headlights most of the episode, and all the women are like, "Yeah, we know this because we've read the books. We've watched."
And like the whole time, I'm like, don't let me go first. Don't let me go first.
Well, I always pull, we can always pull the expression, who says chivalry is dead? We always let the ladies go first. So, but no, honesty, look, let's take a look at this here. The future of Star Wars as far as film and TV is concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, we got so much coming down the pike. It's insane. I mean, we got the Skeleton Crew with, Jude Law and company that's supposed to come out at some point. It was supposed to come out, I think, sometime this year, and then it got shelved. So we're not, excuse me, not quite sure.
Because the writer strike problem? I mean,
the strike.
Is it shelved completely, or is it
No. I think
delayed? Okay.
I think it's delayed because of the strikes and maybe some creative stuff that needs to be filtered out. I'm not 100% sure, so bear with me here. But Skeleton Crew allegedly is supposed to come out later this year, maybe next year, 2025. We're not really sure. But also The Acolyte is supposed to drop later this summer in 2024. We're supposed to be getting a trailer for that at some point. And in the words of Batman, where's the trailer? Because The Acolyte has the most enticing synopsis I've ever heard in my life. It's set way back in the past. It's all about stuff that hasn't occurred in any of the movies.
Okay.
It's its own separate
Perfect.
thing. It's really going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. It's about, people rising up to become potential Jedi, Sith Lords, maybe somewhere in between. We don't
Hmm.
know. It's got an aura of mystery around it, and I like it. So the Acolyte is going to be really good. It's supposed to come out later this, I believe it's later this summer in 2024. So I'm excited for that because that's the most, quote unquote, original and fresh kind of
Hmm.
story that we're going to get in the Star Wars galaxy. That's not connected to the Skywalkers. It's
Okay,
not connected.
here's a
Yeah.
question. Don't mean to cut you off. How do you feel about that? Because when when the Mandalorian started, it
Mhm.
felt like something
Fresh. Yeah.
fresh, something other than
Mhm.
Skywalker, but somehow it always gets back around to being a weaved into like a Skywalker sort of storyline.
Mhm.
Um, a little bit. We had Luke. We had young Luke came back. We had all
Spoilers.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, spoilers!
Yeah. Well,
after
that
after
season that
four
season
four
2 moment is
years.
pretty epic. That season 2 moment that you know
But
where I'm
even
going with, that was pretty darn
yeah,
epic because no one
but
expected that to happen in 40 years, but it did.
so how did you feel like? How do you feel about always sort of having that Skywalker connection in some form or fashion? Because I feel like the galaxy in a galaxy far, far away,
It's
there's more
very big.
galaxies. There's more stories you can tell.
Yeah, it's a big galaxy, right? Galaxies are big, universes are even bigger, planets are big, stars are, bright, right? I mean, the galaxy is so big that we need new characters, we need new stories,
Hmm.
and that's what we want. And also bringing it back to Mandalorian for just a moment here. Mandalorian season 1 was a great entry point for anyone who's never heard of the word Star Wars. If you've never heard of it, you can watch the first 8 episodes of Mandalorian, which is season 1 particularly, and be like, oh, this is interesting. Who is this guy
My
walking around
wife
in
became a
space?
fan. My wife
Yeah,
became a fan of Star Wars because we watched The Mandalorian,
yeah.
and she was interested in just the backstory of Star Wars in itself.
Mhm.
So we go back and watch all the movies and everything up to that point. And now she's ready every season when something comes out to watch. So it was a good entry point, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
just said it, yeah.
it was. It was. So, you know, what I guess my point is here is that Star Wars needs to continue adding new layers to the mythology because if you don't, you're going to get stale real quick because there's been a lot
Hmm.
of Skywalker connections with Mandalorian as of late. Some people like to do this on social media. It's called complaining. And people like to complain that everything has to be interconnected like the MCU. And listen, I get your complaints. Trust me, I get it. But for some people, they enjoy the interconnectivity. Some people do, not everyone.
Yeah,
Okay. But when you give us new stuff like the Acolyte, which we're supposed to get later this year in 2024, respectively, that makes me excited because it makes me realize, hey, we got new characters, new stories, new stuff can be told with new
hmm,
actors, people who haven't had a chance to have the spotlight yet. And that's what I want. I want fresh, new talent in front and behind the camera. That's what I want. That's what Hollywood needs in order to thrive and succeed. So with what is it, the Acolyte, I'm excited.
yeah.
So you got that coming down the pike. You also got Andor season 2 has been announced. That's going to drop in
That's
2025 with Diego
hmm,
Luna reprising his role. Tony Gilroy is going to be helming that like he did the first season, I believe. So you got that. There's there's some spy drama there with Andor with season 2. A lot of people dig that show.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you got 3 one of them has been titled The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is going to be directed by Jon Favreau. That's going to connect all the Star Wars shows, including Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and I believe what's the other one? I don't know if it's going to be Bad Batch because that's set before that, but
Yeah.
all the live action shows that we've had up to this point, they're all going to be connected like the MCU in this movie called The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, I'm intrigued to see how they're going to pull that off, with that,
Same.
making it an Infinity War type movie. Excuse me, Marvel reference. I'm sorry. But it's the thing that's trending. Everybody knows what Infinity War is. So bear with me, folks. It gets better. So I'm interested to see where that goes. And then you got some
Yeah.
untitled movies that are in the pipeline that are going to be coming out later on down the line, whether it's 2025, 2026, 2027. So there's some stuff to look forward to. I just want them to keep this thought in mind is that you don't have to connect everything and just give us fresh stories with new
Hmm.
characters because the books are doing a great job of that with the High Republic right now. Also, I heard that there's potentially going to be a Star Wars High Republic series coming to Disney Plus. Now, if that's the case, then hey, I'm all for it. Now, granted, I don't feel like going back and reading all 40 books from the first 3 phases of the High Republic. I'm sorry. People are trying to seduce me into reading all 20, 30 books that are part of the new series called or is it the High Republic? Yeah. And I'm thinking, that's too much, bro. I prefer standalone stories. They're just easier for me to read and get through, bro. Seriously.
They are it, but see, again, we're in that world of like connected, like we're all connected,
Interconnectivity.
right?
Yeah.
So I get that they want to build a universe, but I feel like they built one of the original ones, right? Like the world that they built alone should be like the at the forefront of all their Star Wars stuff. Like you said, there's more galaxies, there's more planets, there's more things to
There's more
explore.
creatures.
Why not explore all of that instead of just always coming back to the old trusty Skywalker name sort of thing, right?
Yeah, and
But
listen, I like lightsaber battles, but you don't need a lightsaber battle in every show. You can just have people, running for cover. You can have people having blasters in their holsters. I'm
I mean,
fine
I
with that.
feel like there's ways of figuring out
Yeah,
how to make it a bit
sure.
fresher. But I do have okay. So we talked about TV and what was coming that way. The movies. So I'll say the newer movies sort of lost me a bit. Force Awakens was I liked it,
I loved
but
it.
I felt like it after that it was like personally, I feel like they baited and switched with Finn. Finn had nothing else after that. And at least in my opinion, he had nothing else more to do that was worth anything. I felt like if you go in that direction, that's a newer story. But we got right back into the whole Skywalker sort of idea of thinking, right? Like let's connect her, let's Rey or that story back to the original. So, like, what's your thoughts on the newer movies? Because Rogue One is probably one of the best ones, but it's obviously a prequel.
Right.
But the newer sort of trilogy that came out, thoughts on that?
Well, we could be here all day. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. When Disney bought, what was it? Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012, and then the movie comes out in 2015. Which, by the way, that movie turns 10 next year, which is insane. That Force
It's
Awakens
wild,
turns
right?
10.
Yeah.
That's just nuts. But we are going to be celebrating it because it's a great movie. So get with it. So here's the deal. I loved Force Awakens so much so that I saw it 6 times in the theater, and that holds the record.
Yeah.
That's the personal record for me for going to the theater to see a single movie over and over again.
Yeah.
Six-time world heavyweight champion, 6-time champion.
First Avengers movie 3 times. That's as much as I can get.
Okay, so the film that holds the record before Force Awakens was 2013's Man of Steel. I saw that 5 times in the theater. 5 times.
We might have to talk about the DCEU, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's a whole other. That's a different set of cards. But as far as the Star Wars movies go, the sequel trilogy, as a lot of fans calling it, Force Awakens is great. Last Jedi, no thank you. And Rise of Skywalker, like there were things I liked, things I didn't like. Listen, J.J. Abrams didn't have much to work with. He had to clean up a lot of the mess that the creative team made in Last Jedi. Sorry, it's the truth. And he did the best he could. Could he have done more? Obviously. If the film had not come out in 2019 and they waited after the pandemic so they can craft an appropriate story and give J.J. Abrams and his creative team more creative juices to flow and give him the patience, I think the third film would have turned out a lot better than it did, with Episode 9 being The Rise of Skywalker. So Secret Trilogy is like this. First one, great. Last 2, depends on who you ask, brother. Because those last 2, garbage to a lot of people. Second one is garbage to me. Third one's fine with me. I don't love it. I don't like it that much, but I think there are things that work. And obviously Rogue One stands out on its own because it's a prequel to the original trilogy, respectively. But for me, Force Awakens and Rogue One are the 2 best things that have happened cinematically with this new era of Lucasfilm.
Yes.
But in the TV world, Mandalorian has been great. Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, didn't really need it. No point. Because we all know where it leads. True,
but we're tying up loose ends, though, right?
Not really, though. Not really, because we already know where it goes. We didn't need Kenobi. I mean, granted, some things for me in Kenobi did work. I like that young actress who played Leia. She was great. She stole the show.
Yeah,
in my opinion, she was the best part. And Ewan McGregor's interaction with her, I thought, was good too. And then the final battle scene between Vader and Obi-Wan in the desert, where Vader's helmet gets chopped off, and you see that red bloodshot eye.
Yeah.
And then he's transforming his voice between James Earl Jones and Hayden Christensen. I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is what we should have gotten in certain elements of Star Wars that we never got. So that was good. That was good. But overall, I didn't need to see like 8, 9, 12 episodes of this that easily could have been solved in like 2 minutes.
So as a fan, what do you feel were missing from those new movies? Like what What do you feel was missing?
Well, this is the biggest thing, and a lot of people online may or may not agree with me when I say this. By the way, if anyone has a question or a comment about this, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. I look forward to hearing from you because, my gosh, it is like all quiet on the Western Front over here. Come on, guys. Anyway, support All-Star Fandom like we support you. But anyway, cheap plug. You're welcome. So the thing that's missing here is cohesiveness. And when J.J. Abrams came in for the first one, they either should have let him direct all three, let him put together an overarching story, and have it all come to a conclusion in the third film, like other directors have done in the past. Like Chris Nolan did his Dark Knight trilogy. He directed all three. Let J.J. Abrams direct all three. Or if you're going to have three different directors, have them work together and craft a story that works in all three films, that tells a beginning, a middle, and an end the trilogy on the highest of notes, just like they did with Return of the Jedi back in 1983, which, can't believe I'm saying this. That movie's 41 years old now, which is insane. So,
grief, yeah.
I know we're getting too young for this business. I gotta tell you, but yeah, you need cohesiveness and you need everyone to be on the same page, because that was the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy. No one was on the same page. No one knew what was going on. There was no communication. There was no writer's room. There was no J.J. Abrams being the, what do you call it? The Kevin Feige
of the
whole thing, which he should have been, because he knocked it out of the park with Force Awakens. And look what this guy's done in his career. J.J. Abrams is successfully rebooted not one, not two, but three franchises in 15 years. He rebooted Mission Impossible. He rebooted Star Trek.
Too, right? Yeah.
Speaking of Battle in the Stars. And then he does it again with Star Wars. It's like, it's J.J. freaking Abrams. He knows what he's doing.
He's definitely. Oh, I think we got a question from a follower over on Instagram, Jamie.
Too bad I can't see those comments. I'm sorry, IG.
How you doing, Jamie? I think we went over this a little bit with Mandalorian. It says, how do you suggest someone who has only seen one Star Wars movie approach watching, I guess, just Star Wars? I'm not sure which movie she's seen, but I guess what would be, if you had, let's take that one movie away. Let's say, like, okay, here's your introduction into Star Wars. Where do you start? Do you start at the beginning? Start in the middle? Start at Mandalorian? Start at, where do you start? Right, come on, you're our resident.
Jeez, that's a great question. So no, it's a fair question. It's a fair question. Let's keep it simple. Go back to the original trilogy. Go back to 77. Go back to New Hope. Watch New Hope. Watch Empire Strikes Back. Watch Return of the Jedi. They're all available on Disney Plus. # not a sponsor of this show. Although if they want to be, give us a call. And when you're done with that, you're done, exactly, we'd be making mad money, son. So after you watch those three movies for this individual, who was the person who asked the question? Jamie. Okay, so Jamie, here's what you do. Watch episode 4, 5, and 6, which is A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, respectively. And right after that, watch Mandalorian. That's really, in a way, that's all really you really need. But if you do want to know more and how we got to A New Hope, then watch Rogue One before you watch New Hope, because Rogue One is an incredible film from beginning to end, and it tells the story of how we got to episode 4, A New Hope. So I would say watch the original trilogy and The Mandalorian, or start with Rogue One and then watch episodes 4, 5, and 6, which is A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and then go straight into Mandalorian and you're done. That is it. That's all you need.
And also a follow-up with this one. She said, it's still Jamie. It wants our prediction if Jar Jar Binks could ever come back, given Gen Z's sense of humor. So could Jar Jar Binks ever make a return to the Star Wars universe?
I mean, look, Lucasfilm has pulled some crazier stunts. Look at the holiday special. Look at the Caravan of Courage.
Now, since that's Jamie asked that, I feel like a week ago or so, the actor who plays Jar Jar Binks,
Ahmed Best.
I feel like he made a post where he said, once they tried, once I get out, they pull me back in, sort of thing. And it looks like he may have been, I don't know, doing some Jar Jar stuff. I don't know.
I don't know if it's Jar Jar. It might be stuff where he plays that Jedi who saved Grogu in the temple, or maybe he had adventures before he saved Grogu outside of the temple, the Jedi temple, by the way, during Order 66. So if that's the case, listen, his appearance on, what was it? I can't remember. Was it Obi-Wan Kenobi, or no, it was Mandalorian. So his appearance on Mandalorian, I think it was, Ahmed Best's appearance, I didn't even know that was Jar Jar until I saw it later on social media. And then I'm like, that was the guy who saves Grogu? Well, he did a good job. He doesn't have much, to do. But, his screen time is extremely limited. But in that limited screen time, I thought, this guy was a good Jedi. He did a good job. I wouldn't mind seeing more from him. And
Well,
plus, you get to see him in the flesh rather than being behind a rubber suit.
And I think he also played a Jedi in like a children's like show or something like that too.
Yes.
So he was
always
been
that
there.
Is great.
He's always been there. He's just now he's
been in the background,
a little bit more shine. Yeah, especially after
which is fine. If they want to bring him back and do more stuff, that's great. If it's Jar Jar stuff, no, thank you. But
oh really? No,
no, thank you. No, thank you. I listen. Full disclosure. When it comes to the prequels, even though that prequel trilogy doesn't exist, because of how bad it is. But I will say the Phantom Menace is my favorite. Okay? It's pretty bad. But the Phantom Menace is my favorite installment of that trilogy. By the way, Phantom Menace turns 25 on May the 4th. So get ready. We're going to be celebrating that on Movie Watch Along on our channel, which you can follow along with at And I Quote Channel. So I like Phantom Menace, and Jar Jar doesn't really, I mean, listen, I can block out all that negativity and stuff and just enjoy Phantom Menace for what it is. So, and plus you get Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. That's like the best part of the movie.
That was worth it, right? Yeah.
And then the end of the movie with the Duel of the Fates music playing in the background with John Williams, and it's Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in the power chamber, whatever it's called, the rooms of the temple, or whatever. It was great. It was fantastic. It's some of the best lightsaber duels I've ever seen in my life. So Phantom Menace is my favorite. I have a soft spot for that movie. The other two, not so much.
Very CGI heavy in the last.
Too many blue
screens. The other two, too much.
Way too many. And you can tell which is real and which is fake.
I do like CGI Yoda. I will give them a pass on that. CGI Yoda worked for me.
It's fine.
He battled. I mean, come on. He came in like he was Clint Eastwood and showed him a come on, Ryan.
And then he tosses his cane on the floor, and then he uses the force to get his lightsaber out. And he's like, I'm ready to take you out.
How cool was that, right? Come on. Like,
we all went nuts in the theater. In 2002, we went nuts in the theater. But 20 years later, you look back on that film and you're like, ooh.
Nope. I go all the way to that part and watch that over and over and over.
Okay.
But I guess that to sum up your Star Wars TV and movie talk.
Sure.
But one more question to close us out. Ambitious for the future of that, seeing how all the movies and all the other shows are any movies coming out at all, or is it just TV shows from here on out?
Well, it's just TV shows for the next while, but there are going to be movies coming out later on. I think potentially, it's in 2025, 2026. There's going to be a new movie focusing on the character of Rey, played by Daisy Ridley, and this movie is going to be set 15 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, where Rey is going to be teaching a new group of Jedi. She's going to be leading a new Jedi Academy. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, after the sequel trilogy, pretty much all the actors went on social media and bashed the living heck out of Lucasfilm for how they were treated, how everything was mismanaged and in poor taste. But they're giving Daisy Ridley a pass, because I don't think Daisy Ridley really trashed Lucasfilm on social media.
I don't think she did.
And if she did, maybe it flew under the radar. I don't know. But they're bringing her back. She signed a big fat paycheck. But listen, outside of her getting paid mad money, I will say this. Daisy Ridley is a talented woman. She's one of the most beautiful women on this planet. And she is a very talented actress. She can do a lot. She can do drama. She can do comedy. She can do sci-fi, space opera. Well, you name it, she can do it. So I am curious how this new movie featuring the character of Rey is going to go, because a lot of people have a sour taste of those sequel trilogies in their mouth. And I'm hoping that the creators and people behind all this are going to be really smart, very vigilant, and say, hey, we're going to craft this story right. We're going to make up for all the mistakes that were made in those last 3 movies.
Yeah.
And we're going to give Daisy Ridley and her new cast members their proper due. And if that's the case, then I'm all in. But we can't say anything yet because we haven't seen any leaked images. We haven't seen any costume pictures, and we haven't seen a trailer. So until we see an actual trailer, a full-fledged, not one of these 10-second teasers, but a full-fledged
a teaser for the teaser.
A teaser for the teaser of the teaser. By the way, Hollywood, I'm sick and tired of that. Don't ever do that to me again. But when we get a full 90-second, 2-minute trailer, that is something that everyone in the Star Wars community should focus their eyes on, because I truly hope that Rey and Daisy Ridley can carry this Star Wars cinematic franchise in a really good direction. I think they can do it, but it all depends on that trailer. But I mean, trailers are a dime a dozen, but at the end of the day, it depends on the finished product.
No doubt.
So we'll see what happens.
Fingers
Rey, Daisy Ridley, if you're watching this, which I know you watch the show every week, may the force be with you. That's all I'm going to say.
and that's the thing. Like we don't want anything to be bad because we love that universe. We love the characters that have produced in that universe or become of that universe. So we only want the best, I guess. So hopefully they can get it right. I feel like we are in a time where a lot of fandoms are getting taken a little bit more seriously because a lot of people sort of kind of see that Marvel money a little bit too. But Marvel's last little phase after this hasn't been the smoothest path either.
There's a lot, and then certain actors or actresses are having trouble behind the scenes. But the good news is next week we're getting a rebirth with the continuation of the X-Men 92 animated series with X-Men 97.
Right, we got to move on. I want to talk about that so badly.
I know you do. So do I, because I grew up in the 90s like everyone else. I'm excited. It looks great.
Still one
of the
best theme songs of any comic book TV show.
One of the best ever.
Moving on. So we're going to go into the MonsterVerse. Is it still living up to the hype? Before we pretty much 2 weeks from this recording or 2 weeks from this show, I think Godzilla versus Kong, the New Empire drops. I will say this for me. I am a fan of King Kong. I am a fan of Godzilla. I remember when that new Godzilla movie dropped in 2014. I like the fact that they didn't keep it as, this is going to contradict me later, because it was more like not a mysterious thing, but like you just saw pieces of Godzilla, right? Like the door was shutting and he was, growling or roaring or whatever, right? So I thought that was a really dope way to sort of reintroduce Godzilla as this be-all, end-all monster. We keep moving. Kong Skull Island drops. By far my favorite of this series of movies. You have Sam Jackson in that too, who I feel can do no wrong in any movie whatsoever. Put him in any
show him that man is king.
Put him in any situation. I'm watching that movie.
Put him in.
He was on Snakes in the Plains. Snakes on Plains. The only reason I watched that because he was on that.
Snakes. I don't know no snakes.
Oh, come on. We're going home Alone.
I don't know no snakes. I've seen Snakes on a Plane. I know what you mean.
We can left, turn this big mother left. How good is that? But getting off topic, then we go into Godzilla King of Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla versus Kong came out in a weird time. It was off the tail end of pandemic. Didn't get to go into theaters to see it. It was streamed. I will admit, did not enjoy that movie as much as the other two. And I rewatched it to try to figure out what was the disconnect. I just think the story wasn't as strong. And Godzilla got beat. I guess King Kong got his.
It was a draw. His
butt handed to him mostly. Most of it, he got his head head tattooed. But now years later, we'll get to the team up, right? Obviously, going up against Scar King. If anybody knows me, I love a good team up, good superhero team up, good. Just anytime.
It's basically world's finest.
Yeah, so anytime that exactly right. So
it's literally world's finest in the MonsterVerse. I mean, and by the way, Kong has this giant thing on his arm now, so he's like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, and he glows purple now. Did you notice that? He glows purple every time he puts that thing on, and then Godzilla is blue. So I'm thinking, so basically, we got Thanos and we got Galactus.
Godzilla's more pink now on the back end.
Okay, I got him reversed. I'm sorry.
That's coming from. I think that's the glow from it. But
he is Galactus and Thanos teaming up. It's so weird.
But I'm more interested in this movie than I was versus Kong. Maybe because I just don't like my be all end all like tentpole characters fighting each other. I'm not a big Batman versus Superman guy.
Really? I like Carnage.
I
like people destroying each other. I like things being broken. I like seeing arms getting ripped off.
I don't like that at all. But the question is like, is
Have
it
you
living
gotten
up
soft
to
in your age? Come on now.
Oh man, it will do it to you. But I do feel like the hype of it should, for me, I feel like it should be more because of how, I don't know, gigantic or in size and just in presence and name these two characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Movie comes out in 2 or 3 more weeks. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I don't know if off the tail end of Godzilla versus Kong, that's the reason that momentum is kind of slow. Because again, different time, didn't get to go see it in the theaters. Maybe that could have made a difference.
Yeah.
But storyline wise, I'm all in. We got to team up. I'm good for it. Get Ryan, trust me. Team up in. Me and my wife can sit here and watch any show if they're going against each other, and then at the end, there's that moment like that happens. Oh, the movie's a 10 out of 10 for me. Then I guess that's
Jeez. So I guess that means you watch all the team up shows every week on television, like FBI this, FBI Most Wanted, FBI International.
oh,
Everyone
hey,
teams up with each
hey,
other.
hey, Law and Order, SVU, Law
It's
and
still
Order.
25 years strong, man.
What's the other
25
one? The
years
one with
strong for
Stabler on it.
SVU.
And then they get into like Chicago Fire. Of course, I'm all for
Chicago
team
PD
up.
and the Chicago Bears. Yeah, Chicago Bears with them Chicago PD.
This is going to contradict my first one when it comes to like the first Godzilla movie. I hate the human element in these type of movies.
The first three, I thought it worked brilliantly, and Godzilla versus Kong, I thought it was terrible.
It was terrible. I think I might be on that one a little bit more, but 2014 was a good balance. But it's just like everything else that I've watched, where like Transformers, right?
Wait a minute, Transformers is a thing?
Yeah, I could care less about the people
Bumblebee
in that movie.
was great, but I haven't seen the new one yet, which is Rise of the Beast. I still need to see that.
I watched that on a plane ride
from
Portland. Surprisingly, really good.
Yeah, I want to see that because I grew up on the era of the Beast Wars. I grew up on that.
Yeah, it was surprisingly really good because I don't know when I tapped out of Transformers, but again, that human element has to be appealing enough for me to stay along for the ride.
There were new
Godzilla vs. Kong never did that. New cast for So
in the Transformers movies, yeah.
So what do you think, Ryan? Like if being that like these are two icons in cinema and just in lore, what's your thoughts on this MonsterVerse? Has it been a success so far? Has it been what you expected? Because I'm a little 50-50.
For me, and here's the thing. Let me preface this by saying I have not seen the spinoff show yet, which is Monarch Legacy of Monsters.
That too.
It stars both Kurt Russell and his own son, Wyatt Russell, I believe.
Playing a younger version of
him, playing the same character, just two different generations of that character, which is wild to think about, by the way.
Very much so.
In the family, you know. I want to watch that because I've heard nothing but great things about Monarch. And Monarch is such a cryptic, weird organization anyway that I want to peel back those layers and find out about what they've been doing these last 60, 70 years that they've been investigating, these titans, if you will.
They do a really good job, Ryan. Trust me.
And Kurt Russell's a great actor. He's brilliant.
Oh, he's the best part about that
he's
show.
The man.
That and the flashbacks with this
Wyatt?
With his son, but his
Wyatt,
son as him. And that story is way more compelling than the current timeline sort of thing. The younger kids in it, man, I'll admit, they annoy me. That human element, right?
But as far as the MonsterVerse overall,
shut up.
Exactly. I haven't seen Monarch, so I can't comment on that. But it's
good though. It's worth it.
I'm gonna watch it. Trust me, it's on my list of 6 billion things I need to do before I die. But the thing of it is that the MonsterVerse cinematically, I've enjoyed 3 out of the 4. I've enjoyed Godzilla 2014. I freaking love Kong Skull Island. I freaking love Godzilla King of Monsters. I think that's one of the best action, like just destruction movies, like of all, because you get all these classic movie monsters in the same movie. Like people were losing their minds in the theater when who was it? There was Mothra, there was King Rodan, there was what was it, King Ghidorah, like all these creatures showing up, and I'm thinking, boy, I don't know anything about these characters, but the fans behind me are losing their collective marbles, and I'm like, geez, how far do these movies go back all the way back to the 50s or so? It's crazy.
They do, because like I think
first one came out in 54. Godzilla turned 70 this year, which is insane.
And that's the wild thing, is like 50. The whole reason for Godzilla or whatever was like a play on Hiroshima, like the nuclear bomb there.
Nuclear testing.
So this is what spawned.
It's great. I think it's great. No. Yeah, I've enjoyed 3 out of the 4 movies. Godzilla v. Kong was a huge letdown. I wanted there to be bloodshed. I wanted there to be a real good fight, and we didn't really get it. We got subpar first 2-round fights, and at the end of the movie, they're like, "Hey, who's this guy? Oh, that's Mecha Godzilla controlled by some dude with a VR headset. We gotta go kill him now because we can't keep hurting each other." And I'm like, "No, man, who cares about Mecha Godzilla? Save him for the sequel. Don't worry about him now."
Me liking a good team up, I should have been on board with that. But it was like, it just,
It's so
This is
cheesy. It was
how? Yeah,
cheesy and
it
over the
was,
top.
man.
It was so over the top. Like the guy's controlling him with his fingers, like in Pacific Rim with a VR headset. And I'm like, dude, this worked way better in Pacific Rim than it did this movie.
Wow,
Which
the last Pacific Rim.
ironically enough, they're all made by the same people, Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers Studios, which is crazy. But yeah, for me, they're 3 out of 4. So your one strike for me is Godzilla v Kong. Now, Godzilla and Kong, I think it's called The New Empire.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see it in the theater. I think I'm going to wait for it to drop on streaming because I got so let down by Godzilla v Kong that I don't feel like spending $25 on a movie ticket to see this. Now, I do want to see something involving apes, but that's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I'm down to see that because that's a continuation of the original trilogy, whereas this one's just bonkers crazy with Godzilla and Kong going up against these weird-looking pseudo apes that live underground in the Batcave or something. Like, what is that?
And let's talk about that too, real quick. The two things I want to talk about or hit on real quick.
Apes on horses.
Man, I'm down for that any day of the week.
Apes on horses.
Caesar was the man. Yeah. Me and my wife rewatched that maybe like a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months ago before the trailer dropped.
Oh, the Andy Serkis trilogy?
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's great.
We remembered it. We knew it was great. And we were like, let's just rewatch it.
Love it.
And we loved that movie. All three of them, really.
Yeah, but they're all great.
Now to see where we're getting to now.
Kingdom.
And it's, I was like, okay, I'm in. But let me jump back to King Kong.
Sure. Let's talk about the bigger ape in the room. Yeah.
Let me talk about that one. I will say, graphically, it doesn't look great either compared to the first few movies too. Mm-hmm. Compared to how Kong looked in Skull Island,
like he's aged about 40 years.
Well, he was old. That happened in what, the 70s or so? The Skull Island.
Yeah,
like, that was Vietnam, right?
I think. 73, 78.
So yeah, I get the aging, right? But it doesn't look as clean as it used to, especially the baby Kong or the baby like
baby going like, I'm gonna just kill you all because you killed my father. I'm like, who cares, dude?
When you compare it to Planet of the Apes, the trailer that the movie we just watched, me and my wife, and then the new trailer that dropped out, it leaves a little bit to the imagination. They're big apes. They're talking. They're walking. They're doing everything else. But to me, I kind of felt thrown off by a little of the CGI in the new one. It draws my eyes away. It doesn't make me look at like, oh, that looks cool. It makes me look like, it's almost like that.
It's like a video game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like something.
It's like King Kong wearing a VR headset.
Planet of the Apes, I'm all in there, man. Like,
dude,
I'm in there.
That movie looks solid. And considering the fact that it's a follow-up to the trilogy, when we never thought we were going to get a sequel to that because they ended it so perfectly.
It was perfect, right?
It was really... So I am a bit concerned. It's like, oh, we're getting into forquel territory. What are you doing, guys? But at the same time, it continues the story that was laid out by Andy Serkis and Caesar and everyone else. And it's not about Caesar. I think it's about like his grandson or his son.
Yeah, it's a few generations down.
It's like a few generations after Caesar. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going way in the future.
Because
where are they going to go with
the humans now? Like all the humans now.
The humans are being experimented on. They're being hunted. And there's this one girl who's like really hot, even though she's supposed to look dirty. But it's like, who is this mystery woman? Like, I don't even know who she is.
It happened in the Charleston Heston movie.
Do you think it's Nova's great-great-great-granddaughter? Maybe it's Nova's granddaughter.
Possibly, man, because that might be the connection between her and the...
I guarantee the only way you're going to connect this new film to the original trilogy is if you have either Nova or like one of Maurice's descendants. You know, Maurice, the big brown ape.
You're right.
If you have one of his descendants in it and says, hey, what do you talk about my grandfather like that? What are you talking about? Well, my grandfather Maurice was a smart man. What do you do? Like, if he brings that up, I'm like, oh, that's how we're connecting this. Okay. But if that mystery woman who's on the poster that you've seen in the theater, I'm like, who is this woman? What connection does she have to the apes, considering the fact that she's the one being hunted? Is she Nova's great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, or is she somebody else?
Well, if we're at Caesar's, like, great-great-grandkid, I think we're probably going to stay on that line. Oh, we need to talk about this some more because I love that trilogy. I love...
Who doesn't?
I'm concerned. Like I said, I'm concerned because we're doing another one. I don't want it to look badly on the others, but... True. I mean, they got out of control after the Charleston Heston ones too, a little bit. You know, we went through that Mark Wahlberg phase of that one single movie too.
We had 4 sequels in the original film, and then we had the Tim Burton nonsense. Yeah.
Good grief. We got off on another whole sort of primate
it still concerns
discussion.
the apes. They're still monsters, right? Apes are monsters, right? No, apes
So,
together,
oh
strong.
man,
Like that's
Caesar was. I couldn't. Man,
Andy
you're gonna make me go back.
Andy Serkis should have gotten Oscars for those movies.
Okay, so again, we're going long, but I don't mind at all.
Are we, dude?
Do you think someone like Andy
Andy Serkis,
Andy Serkis, who
great
does
actor.
what he does, great actor,
great,
how
brilliant.
much more is put into the visual effects side to make that character feel and look that way too?
It's true. I mean, the
So
visual effects
could that
artist.
person get a supporting actor or act like could that ever be a possibility?
Maybe, but then again, it is a touchy subject because the visual effects artists are the people who bring those characters to life, and you got to give credit where credit is due, right? So it's a combination of both. I think Andy Serkis deserves a lot of the credit, but I also think the visual effects artists deserve a lot, if not most of the credit.
Yes.
Because you have all those dots on your face, and Andy Serkis is wearing these, what do you call them, like white and gray black suits with all this gear, with this camera on his face, because they're capturing the 3D images of his face where he's doing the facial expression. So it's like, that's a lot of work.
A lot.
So,
yeah.
I mean, why do you think it took us this long to get to a fourth film in Planet of the Apes? Because they needed to be patient with the technology to catch up, because they're pushing things forward more and more every day. I mean, look at technology today, folks. It is light years beyond what we had 25 years ago. Look at what we had in 2005 and look at what we have today. It's insane. It's insanity.
Definitely a jump, but no hoverboard. So the future isn't here for me
yet.
Dude,
I want my Mattel hoverboard, son. I want my Mattel hoverboard, which, by the way, funny you bring that up, my good friend Dion, because Back to the Future Part 2 also turns 35 this year, and we will be celebrating that movies, in grand style on Movie Watch Along. You got to tune in.
Can I jump on for that?
You may be our panelist for that one. I think you're going to be in on that.
I have my DeLorean back here already in between. So yeah, I'm ready for it. Let's let me know when.
I will. I will send you. I will send you the schedule. I will hand it over to you. I'll be like, yo, which ones you want to do? Give me some dates.
So fun thing we're gonna do, close it out. I always do, or I'm starting to do again, second time doing this, right?
Second time.
So only second time. So pretty much it's that last segment of like, what would you do?
What would you do? I remember that show from Nickelodeon. I grew up on Nickelodeon, guys.
So I have a scenario for you, okay?
What would you do?
So listen to this for me. So it's called the Galactic Cook-Off. Okay. All right. So you're invited to a cook-off competition on Naboo, where the challenge is to create a dish that represents your home planet. With limited ingredients and an unfamiliar kitchen, how do you impress the judges? Do you stick to traditional recipes, get creative with available ingredients, or collaborate with other contestants for a fusion dish? How do you tackle your galactic cook-off?
Well, considering the fact that Ryan here is not a good cook and I can't cook anything to save my own skin, the only thing I can do for you, Dion, is toast a bagel and put cream cheese on it. And also, I can make you waffles by putting them in the toaster oven and setting it for 4 minutes, and then you hear that magic sound, ding.
But you don't have those certain accoutrements, man. You just have whatever they have. Okay. What's the rest? What will you represent the world, the Earth?
To answer this $1 billion non-existent question, I'm gonna collaborate with other contestants and make a fusion type dish. So
okay.
And so I can't cook anything to save my own skin.
Okay, so you wouldn't even have entered the competition, is what I'm hearing, right?
No, I would not be the top chef. I would be the worst chef in the history of television. I would be the worst chef in the history of the galaxy. So, which, by the way, I'm okay taking on that moniker because I've been called worse. I mean, listen, we've all been through something known as bullying when we were in school, right? I was bullied a lot in school, so I've been thrown under the bus a couple of times. So I'm used to people throwing shade at me. Listen, people throw shade at people all the time, but guess what? Haters are going to hate, but don't hate the player, hate the game. All right. Like Will Smith said, don't hate the player, hate the game. So,
also a catchphrase of Booker T late in WCW.
True. He said that in 99 and 2000, man. So I think maybe Will Smith picked it up from him.
I mean, Booker T he created everything, right?
He was a 5-time champion, man.
The Rock stole his move.
Didn't Booker T steal his move? I was gonna say, I think
That's
Booker
the
T stole
joke.
the Rock's
That's
move.
the joke Booker T always
Yeah,
says
it's
that
like
he's.
he stole the rock bottom and turned it into the bookend. That was what it was called. It was called the bookend, if I remember correctly.
You're right. You're right. You're
From
completely
the
right.
WCW days that I grew up on as a child. So
Oh man, we're gonna have to do a wrestling show eventually. But
wrestling.
Ryan, man, I appreciate you hopping on, going through the wonderful world of Star Wars movies and TV. Definitely can't thank you enough for jumping on. This is definitely a growing process, a building. I have never gone. This is the second time in my life I've ever done live where I just haven't gone back and like edited and done stuff like that. So really, just having this opportunity to do this has been great. Also, through the world of like YouTube shows and social media to meet you two. I definitely cherish that as well. I feel like I've made a new friend too. So, but
New
definitely
frenemy.
no.
Yeah. Maybe
Well,
I don't know, because you and I
our
differ on a few
Superman.
things, not a lot, but we do differ on a few things. But it's all
Well,
right.
our Superman Batman
It's all
versus
good.
would probably be a good one though. While Batman is the superior of all superheroes, but
maybe we'll have to put you on the panel for Batman '89.
oh, I know it backwards and forward, man.
Dude,
Michael Keaton needs to.
my friend Austin and I are going to be doing it. We looked at each other the other day. We're like, dude, this is going to be a quote along. We're not even going to be focusing on the movie. It's going to be quoting the movie the whole time. Dion, myself, and Austin are going to be quoting it the whole time.
Dude, send me the dates. If I'm not doing anything or have a game or anything, I am there. But Ryan, again, thank you for your friendship. I really appreciate it, man. This has been another episode of All Star Fandom Prime. Again, we went live. We're doing this thing. If you're watching on the replay or you jumped in, I saw a few people jump in on Instagram Live, so appreciate that. But again, follow, like, share, subscribe, do all the social media stuff when it comes to sharing. Also, don't forget to follow Ryan and I quote there. How many close to subscribers?
Only
How many?
10. Only 10
Only
away
10.
from 1,000. Only 10 people.
Only
we
10.
have 990 subscribers, Dion. 990. We're this close, man. We're this close.
That'd be great, man. But so hopefully we can get you over that hump. And again, man, thanks again for hopping on. Again, another episode of All Star Fandom. We'll be back again next week. Another great guest on. I may pull Ryan again. You never know. But definitely just having an opportunity to do this and talk with everyone about all their fandoms and what's going on in those fandoms have been a great opportunity. So again, until next week, peace.